Hello YouTube, Polypede Works here. So in this video, I want to really talk about chapter 1050 of One Piece called Honor. So the interesting points that I sort of take from this chapter, from the cover story, obviously the Germa coming to save their brothers who are captured by the Big Mom pirates. The youngest, one of the Big Mom pirates, is kind of getting manhandled, which is um a little graphic, but okay. So moving forward, I think with this chapter, shout out to Yasue for being a great dad. I think his sacrifice in the whole scheme of making sure that the allies wouldn't be found out and the raid would succeed, it was done beautifully here because Toko is acknowledging his sacrifice and giving her proper respects to him, so that's cool. Another interesting thing we see when Kaido was knocked out, he gradually just shifts from dragon back into his normal form, like say Kaku did when Zoro knocked him out in his lobby. I don't know, which is the funny thing. I actually don't know if that's the case. I know that's not the case for Big Mom because everything that has led up to this point has suggested that she needs an actual grand defeat, and Law and Kid doing what they did, even though that was grand and that was a great moment. I don't think that's the end for her, because what we saw in that fight was that she can regenerate using her own soul on top of having this extraordinarily tough body. Like, I think out of all the people in One Piece, I think Big Mom is actually the primary superhuman. That's it. There hasn't been too many characters to come close. In terms of just learning more about rocks, right? The narrative weight of that is either going to fall on Shiki or fall on Big Mom, because it really wouldn't make sense based on what we know via Kaido's flashback that was shown in chapter 1049. It really doesn't make sense for Kaido to be the one to tell us about Rocks Pirates, because for all we know, he was the newest member. He was inducted into the Rocks Pirates when he was a teen or a young man, right? Big Mom at that point was a core member from the looks of it. But here's where I think things are going to split. Unlike in the end of Enies Lobby, where we sort of cool down and we learn about the Yonko from Garp, I think we're going to have a situation like Thriller Bark, and this is where we get sort of the first mention of Kaido specifically. Then, when we meet Moria and we have his defeat in Thriller Bark, or even before then, and just in, I believe when he's talking about oars, he mentions Kaido. He's the only person at that point that has a tie to Kaido. So when he brings up Kaido, that's a person now that we know who is connected to Kaido directly. Then just so happens that when it's Kaido's time to appear, when it's Kaido's arc, we see Moria again infiltrating to find Alpsamon. Yeah. And just so happens too, which I find very interesting, though we don't know the relationship between Kaido and Ancient Giants, but it's very interesting that sort of Moria's ace in the hole back in Thriller Bark was the ancient giant oars, right? Then we find out that Kaido has a whole group of ancient giants under his command. And kind of like Moria too, Kaido has sort of, well, he literally has numbered guys, right? Because all the ancient giants are named after numbers. So that correlates with Moria, who numbered all of his zombies. Another parallel that I think is going to happen, like at the end of Thriller Bark, some people have talked about that Big Mom was sort of like the Kuma figure in this arc. What I mean by that is, after everyone's winded and defeated after fighting Moria in Thriller Bark, Kuma shows up and just creates this whole other problem. However, his sort of showing up wasn't really a detriment. It was more so like a proving ground for Zoro in that moment. It shows that the government is actually concerned well, they were concerned at that time, but they were concerned about warlords being defeated left and right by these ragtag group of pirates. So his appearance has a lot of significance. What could happen at the end of Onigashima, I don't think there's going to be a big party just yet. I think we're going to have one of those moments. Who that may be is unclear. However, Lucy, still around the island, he's a thing. Big Mom could come out of the lava and be a problem because we know that the Big Mom pirates are still around the island somewhere. They're making it back up the waterfall, perhaps, because the only Big Mom pirate that has been even present in this arc for an extended amount of time who has done things is Perospero. So, yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about. So I'm saying is that whomever comes about in the end of this arc is going to be a bearer of bad news. Moving on, I want to talk about Yamato specifically. Okay, the jig is up. I can't remember how long Yamato has been in the manga proper, but okay, let's just say for a rough estimate of 3 years. She has been one of the most heavily publicized minor characters in this manga that I think we've ever seen, period. So for her to get that high in the character poll and to be in all of this material and to now be the one who saves Luffy from falling at the end of these events, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I think we have a main character. I think she's gonna join. She doesn't join, and all of this time, all of this material, all of this publicity that she's gotten just evaporates and goes to waste. That to me just seems not how things would go. She shows up now in this sort of tail end of things. She's gotten all this publicity. She's got a unique fruit. She has all this going for her. And just by how the crew is made up now, there's no real person who's eating the beast fruit now. Because, okay, Luffy is a human fruit model user. So is Chomper. So there's no beast fruit user on the ship, which is interesting. Also, the whole Oni thing, which brings another sort of race into the situation, which again, we don't know what that is, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. So Yamato is a very interesting case, and she is something that is different for the sort of makeup of the crew. So you have these two super genius women, so it'd be nice to have someone who's just sort of like an Unga Bunga Captain Caveman type of girl, you know what I'm saying? It'll be more interesting to have that on the crew. So she's kind of like the big sister type. Also, if you're a big proponent of the Straw Hats fighting the Blackbeard pirates at the end of the story in a big climactic finish, Captain Devon also has a dog fruit model. It's just a kitsune, but it's a mythical fruit. Very interesting. She's also a big woman who carries a big weapon. It's a spear. Very interesting. So with that will do it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.